inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. That short third man is the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening, I've got exiled Somerset fan up north there, Steve Tancock. Steve, how's it going? Is it as grim as they say?
No, it's glorious, mate. Sun's out. It's cracking the flags, as they say up here. Cracking the flags.
Great stuff. And we have the artist formerly known as the custodian of the maidens bowl by men in Somerset Men's T20 Vitality Blast cricket. Dan, you believe that you now have a new nickname. This is earth-shattering.
I realised that I think I've been at every super over in professional cricket in England.
Wow.
Someone pointed out to me that there was a super set in the 100, which obviously I was not at, but that wasn't an over. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been at all the super overs, which were the two on finals day in 2011, obviously including the Somerset one, 2019 World Cup final, and now the Somerset Women Durham game on Friday at Exmouth. I don't think they're playing anymore, although I'd be happy to be told otherwise.
If there are any more, do let us know. But cricket
No, don't
Twitter
tell us because
very...
it'd spoil it if you told us. Let's leave it at that.
Cricket Twitter are normally pretty good with these sorts of things. I've got a slight steward's inquiry on Friday, though. Was that professional cricket? Because it's the County Cup, which includes some of the amateur county sides, because it's a knockout one. So, I mean, you're still winning at the other three. But I think if you're...
The
you would
two
filter
sides,
it down then, wouldn't you?
The two sides are both professional.
Yes.
So for me, it counts. And you can go back to, the old C&G Trophy, Gillette Cup, etc. That obviously had national counties.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, because you had Bedfordshire and Staffordshire and Cornwall and that.
So you'd still call that professional cricket between, the matches between the first class counties. So it counts for me. Anyway, professional cricket is one way of saying it. I mean, I just mean any high level cricket.
In competitions involving professional sides. There we go. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So was that you, your dad, and your brother, or just?
Yeah, it does apply to them as well. Yeah.
Okay, so Phil, Matt, and Dan Kingdom are claiming to be the only people to have witnessed all four professional super overs, or super over. What did I say before? Super overs in competitions in which professional sides are taking part,
participating.
Yeah.
You believe you can beat that record? Let us know.
Yeah, there could be others who are at all of those matches as well. Who knows?
Let's say in this country, because obviously if there's been one in South Africa or Australia or somewhere. That's a bit of an ask for you to have been at that one. I think that would be above and beyond the call of duty.
Yeah. They claim only applies to matches in England.
Just in case Shep gets even more pedantic in a minute.
Well, England and Wales, technically, if we're including. So, right. We've witted on about Dan's claim to fame enough now. So what was your reaction at about 2 minutes to 11 on Friday morning when you did a double take and thought, oh, why is Lewis Gregory opening with Tom Lammonby? Wait a minute, that's not Tom Lammonby, that's Josh Davey. I mean, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So fair play to the guys. They've taken a bold step, radically changed the opening partnership, and for my money, it worked a treat.
Yeah,
you guys.
Well,
I mean,
didn't you think for a minute it's a bit like a club game where everyone sat in the dressing room and it's like, okay, who fancies opening today? And the skipper says, well, I'll open, and then Mr. Reliable goes, well, I'll do it as well. I laughed more for the fact that we spent half an hour last week talking about the opening partnership, and pretty much, somebody said Josh Davey, and I said, don't be stupid. And I psyched Gibbo up for Andy Umeed definitely going to open the batting. And it was so left field. It was right field almost, wasn't it? It was Yeah, I liked it in that it did work. I don't like it in that I sort of get the feeling that it's all a bit chaotic at the moment. And if I'm being unfair, I'll carry on being unfair. But there were 2 or 3 times in that match that really pushed my buttons. And initially, when I saw that, that was one of them, I've got to admit. And I'm glad I was wrong in hindsight, but no.
I mean, in both their opening partnerships, particularly in the first innings, it seemed to me, Dan, that there just wasn't a lot of noise going on out there. It was all very calm. They both looked very assured. There's 2 experienced pros who've been there, done that over a number of years. There wasn't the jittery false shots or anything like that. I mean, they only put on 21, but Davey got 28. He got a bit of a raw decision, by all accounts. I mean, do you see it lasting?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to take it game by game for now. I think it was probably a case of they had the 11 together and they thought which 2 are going to open, and they thought, well, it's almost like the openers. It's almost like they know the openers are going to struggle, they're going to fail anyway. So we might as well put 2 bowlers up there to allow everyone else to thrive in the middle order. It saves Lammonby having to go up to open because we know that he's been much better at 3. Saves Vaughan opening, and that worked. He came in at 7 and scored 80. So it was almost, in a way, a sort of a sacrificial lamb kind of situation, but also it's no pressure. If it works, then great. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world because we often struggle at the top anyway. And it did work. It worked brilliantly. Obviously, first innings, Josh, as you said, scored with 28 or so. And then in the second innings, Lewis Gregory, absolute captain's knock to win us the game. Had a bit of luck, obviously. But yeah, that was the highest score by a Somerset opener since near the end of 2023. So, and he was utterly calm and composed and determined to win us that game. So it worked. So yeah, it remains to be seen what we do going forward.
It was a bit jittery towards the start, but we'll come on to that later. They seem to suggest that Lewis Gregory, they wanted him in the team. He probably wouldn't have played if we had, for example, Marcus Trescothick and Harold Sapire at the top of the order, because he was nursing a bit of a niggle, wasn't going to bowl, so that he had to effectively play as a batter, and that seemed like the most sensible place to put him. Josh Davey as well. I think it wasn't like he didn't bowl. I mean, he did do the old clubby star player of opening the batting and the bowling in the first innings. And did he open in the second innings as well? Let me have a look. And he did open the second innings as well. So it wasn't like that. He didn't bowl as quite as many overs, but he did take the new ball. And it just seemed to kind of make sense. If you've got all the sort of your other bits in place, and if you've got these 2 left over and they can do it, well, why not?
Yeah, and I think the planning was slightly thrown because clearly England want James Rew to bat at 4. That, to me, that had to be, because there was no other reason why Abe's would drop down to 5.
Well, I was thinking this. They said it was just he wants to go up the order, or they see him going up the order as his sort of natural progression. So they just kind of moved him a couple of places up the order, and it seemed like a good time to do it.
The sort of thing you do by increments, though, is it? If you want someone to be an opener eventually, surely you say to them, you're good enough, you open now, rather than we'll bat 4 for a couple of games, then you can bat 3. I mean, I'm not against, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. It just, people are going to say I'm being really harsh here, but I just thought it was muddled thinking to me. And I said last week that I thought Archie should be kept at the top of the order. And again, the usual caveat, we don't know the conversations and what's happening in the dressing room. But for him to go from opening to 7, and Dan, you're right, it worked. He got runs, but I don't think Archie Vaughan should be batting lower than 6. And that's the problem it creates by having those 2 opening, that you've got the old thing about having this crowded middle order.
Well, talking about Vaughan batting at 7, on the second morning, you would have noticed a marked difference in the way that Lewis Gregory managed that lower order than Archie Vaughan did. Because Archie Vaughan is obviously only 19. He's only making his way in the professional game. Lewis Gregory's had 15 odd seasons at playing championship cricket. So it's very harsh to sort of criticise Archie for not having the nous that Lewis has got. But there was a marked difference, and he sort of got to 9 wickets down. He went, "Oh God, I better score some runs here." And then he sort of panicked, and he played a pretty ordinary shot to lose his wicket. But he did score 80, which is great to see him getting some runs. And I'm with you, Steve. I think if you are going to move Lewis to the top, then you need somebody experienced, or as many experienced heads as you can get down there to bat with the tail if you can. And James Rew has done it on numerous occasions. So I potentially would be with you and move maybe Vaughan at 5, with Abel at 4 and Banton at 6 and Rew at 7. Am I getting that right?
Yep, that's what I would, at the moment, would go with.
Is Rew not better than a number 7 though?
Yes, you could say that, but how are you gonna arrange those 4 then? Abel, Vaughan, Banton, and Rew.
Well, there's no ideal solution, but you could go.
I mean, it is just devil's advocate for you, Dan. Adam Gilchrist was better than a number 7.
Yeah, but Rew is a different kind of batter, though, isn't he? He's more.
That's true.
He's the long-term heir to Joe Root. He's potentially. I think they see him. I think Somerset see him as a top order batter. I don't know if they see him as an opener. I think they just wanted to give him a bit more responsibility than being at 6. He can't potentially show his full repertoire of skills. He can't fully be himself if he's at 6, perhaps. I think that's kind of why they wanted to just come in a bit earlier and dictate the innings from a little bit earlier. That's the way I see it. But yeah, as you said, it does create a problem if Gregory's not down there either. So it's potentially the whole order at the moment is a bit of a short-term solution, but it works for this game. So.
And then when you bring Thomas Rew in, seems sort of nailed on, doesn't it? How does that work then?
Well, we'll come to that. We have got to discuss which members of the Rew family are going to be where and when on Thursday and Friday this week. Somebody else, or anything to talk about on that first season? Obviously, great to see Archie come off after a week. He looked a different player. I thought he just looked like he had a weight lifted off his shoulders the way he batted on Friday afternoon. Lammers looked good as well. Rew got 46. So everybody got in, and the only criticism you could probably lay is that nobody went on and got a big score, and they probably really should have got to at least 350 on that second morning.
Anthony thought at the end of day 1 that was an above par score on what he called a tricky surface.
Okay.
So, but I agree with you. You look at the scorecard. When you look back, as I do at the end of a game, just sort of refresh my mind. And I look back and I was like, yeah, that exactly that. You needed at least one of those to go on and make 100. Of Lamb B, Abel, Banton at the moment. Yeah. He's owed another 100 soon, isn't he? He must
by a run, can he? It's no. Yeah. And then, watching, I was up there on Saturday. Were you there Saturday, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that spell between lunch and tea is probably one of the best sustained seam bowling efforts I've seen from a Somerset pace quartet in a number of years. I thought they were absolutely just relentless and just completely on the money. What did they take in that session? It was, bowled Sussex out for 152.
Yeah, 8 wickets.
That was the session that won the game, really, in hindsight, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Overton, 3 for 30. Pretorius, 3 for 24. Jack Leach picked up a couple as well, 2 for 18. There was a little bit of turn on offer. Matt Henry returning. We haven't even talked about Matt Henry yet. Quarter of an hour in. And the aforementioned Josh Davey opens the bat and opens the bowling. We'll probably want to keep wicket after 20 overs. And his spell with the new ball's finished. I thought Henry was a little bit rusty. Didn't quite see him at his best. over the sort of 2 days that he was bowling, but that's to be expected. I think he's not bowled.
Needed the run out, as they say in horse racing
will be
terms.
better. Yeah, will be better for the run. And yeah, second time around, obviously Lewis Gregory invited them to follow on. A good phrase, that, invited them, because it's not like you can. I thought an invitation was something you could readily turn down, but you can't really say, no, we don't fancy following on, thanks. Well,
probably dates back to when it was the gentlemen, amateur captains, and it would have been unseemly for an amateur captain to do anything other than politely invite. But yeah, that's a good point. Can you actually then at that point say, no, all right, thank you? That'd be good, wouldn't it?
I'd like to see them say they're ordered to follow on. Lewis Gregory is ordered Sussex to follow on. He's demanded the follow on, etc.
I was surprised on the Sunday morning that Jack Leach didn't bowl until when he did, and I was actually getting quite aggy and annoyed and I thought Lewis missed a trick with Jack Leach a couple of times, because I would have got him on earlier with the new ball, and I know it worked out all right in the end, but as I say, we got away with one there, but I don't get it. I really don't. Do you think I'm being unfair there, or I'm not?
Maybe, but I think after the seamers, it was all happening for the seamers. So they were still beating the bat. They weren't going all over the park. I think on balance, you could potentially, if you're being harsh, say yes. But I think if you've got the seamers doing the business,
I think
and they
we
are
played
constantly
to John
beating
Simpson's
the bat,
strength by not bowling Leach early in the day, because I think, to me, that's Simpson's weakness. He's such a good player that he doesn't have many weaknesses, but I thought that might be something we could have exploited sooner.
Yeah, potentially. So back to that second evening, 100 for none. Hands up if you were having flashbacks to Worcester. I definitely was. Asked Craig Open after play, said that they weren't. It did seem to me very much that having the heavy roller on twice in sort of pretty quick succession between the start of the Sussex first and the second innings really sucked a lot of life out of the pitch. And once that kind of wore off, they went bang, 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 bang. How many bangs is that? 4 bangs in a row.
And then 2 quickly.
121 for 4 overnight. And then a couple of quick ones early in the morning. But as you say, Steve, they really had to work then to get the last 4 wickets. And could you have brought Leach on earlier? Possibly.
I think he came on only after a couple of overs of Davey. I think we had the initial spells from Henry and Overton, and then Davey and Pretorius came on. Davey bowled 2 overs, and then Leach came on. So I don't think it was that late that Leach came on. I think Gregory saw quite quickly that Davey wasn't being particularly effective, so Leach came on, and it just shows. I mean, Leach has bowled very well early season, which is great to see at Taunton on these wickets, which aren't necessarily, they're more usually seam friendly this time of year. But the other week against Essex and this game as well, he's been a key part of those wins.
Yeah, 4 for 51 in the second innings to go with his 2 for 18. So 6 wickets in the match for 69 is pretty good going.
Pretty good,
as you say, for a spinner in the early part of the season. So an even 150 to win then. Flashbacks to various other little run chases that we've had of a similar ilk. It wasn't to be as stress-free as that final morning against Essex, as demonstrated when we, in familiar Somerset fashion, slumped to 11 for 3, and it could have been even worse if I think it was Tom Lumley and stuck his arm out to call Ollie Robinson for overstepping after Lewis Gregory was caught slip with not very many on the board. Can we talk about possibly the worst shot I've ever seen James Rew play in his entire career? Because I was absolutely having the mortgage on him doing what he did against Essex a couple of weeks ago and just getting his head down, seeing off the danger of the new ball of Robinson and Nathan McAndrew, and seeing it home with the skipper. Didn't want to do that though.
And then,
probably the worst shot I've ever. So we'll. I don't know. It's not really much we can say about that. I'm sure he's disappointed with that. So we'll park that. I've got a lot of love for how Tom Abel batted because was it about 25 balls before he got off the mark? He was really.
Yeah.
He was. I wouldn't say he was struggling, but he wasn't fluent either. So I think he recognised that I've got to just wait for it to get easier, and he did. And he didn't succumb to that little devil on his shoulder saying, "Go on, just try and pop him over the top. Get four, get yourself going." He really ground it out, and that was good to see. And well, as you say, that 89 not out from Lewis Gregory is probably an early contender for the County Championship Golden Apple of Performance of the Year.
Yeah, Abel was scratchy, wasn't he? I mean, he has been sort of the last couple of games, really. I think he found a bit of form in this match, I think. But yeah, he knew he just had to stay there because Gregory's the one who's in form. He had 4 50s this season. He's got the most 50-plus scores of any Somerset batter this season. Yeah, Abel just stayed there. And it was a tense period. Early in that partnership was tense. We were 30 for 3, and there was a lot of tension in the ground. You could just sense it. But no, gradually we just saw off the new ball. The pressure slowly relieved. We got the odd boundary away. And yeah, from once those two were settled in, it was relatively comfortable from there, despite the loss of, a couple more wickets. And I just wonder if, I don't know if, because obviously the pitch was still, not that difficult. And I know Robinson bowled very well. There's there's an element of just maybe they weren't expecting to have to chase that many. So that just caused a few jitters. The fact that they may have at one point been expecting to chase 50, if that. So it's sort of suddenly having to be faced with a chase of 150 and, with Robinson bowling well, a bit of pressure, knowing that, we dominated the match. So perhaps there was just a few jitters about if they lose the game, they were potentially nervous about losing the game. So they just, but no, it was all fine in the end.
Well, losing after ordering the opposition to follow on is never a good place to be. And I'd like to think that they savvy about how these pitches are going to play at Taunton now, and just realise that they are going to stay good to bat on days 3 and 4, and you've just got to stay in the game. After the Worcester incident, should we call it that, going forward, you've got to be prepared for teams to bat well, and I think they did bat well, Simpson in particular, and they just need to look at it and go, well, the pitch ain't getting any worse, so we can chase this.
And Dan, you're absolutely right. But if it hadn't been for that little burst of Matt Henry to wrap the innings up, I mean, that's what you want your overseas quick to do. But that was so crucial, because that 140, 150 could have stretched a good bit further if he hadn't have done that, because, it's, as you said, Josh wasn't hugely effective at that point, and Miggy P's a bit mercurial at times. So the fact that you could almost rely on Matt Henry to, and that was what I like about Henry is there's a lot of the Botham in him, in that he's very phlegmatic when he's hit for boundaries. He almost sees being hit for boundaries an opportunity rather than a negative, which was, Botham used to bowl some absolute pies and get caned all over the place, and then come back with a unbelievable delivery to get a batter out. And I think that to me is Henry. Whether inside he's cussing and effing and jeffing, but he came back, didn't he? And just that was so what we needed then, because certainly when that third wicket went down, I was like, oh my goodness, thank God we ain't chasing 180 to 200 here.
Well, when he was pretty happy when he knocked over Hudson Prentice. Really, that was a jaffer, and he was certainly he was certainly enjoyed that one. So yeah, Archie Vaughan kept Lewis Gregory company, and that was that. Everything is good at Taunton. Another win, marching up the table, not quite as quickly as we'd like, but certainly with.
It's Constantine is in the middle of the table quite a lot now, hasn't it?
Well,
with Knox losing as well.
I mean, we're on, what are we? 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th on 73 points. Essex, Yorkshire and Worcester are underneath us. But if you look, 23 points off top. And we've got to play Notts twice. We don't play Surrey again, which is really annoyed me at the start of the fixture list. I knew we'd have to beat them twice if we had to chance of winning the title. Still got Warwickshire to play. Still got Durham on Friday. All is looking, well, it's an opportunity to climb the table, if you want to look at it that way.
And if not,
Durham beat Notts in the week, didn't they?
Yeah,
exactly. And that constitutes it even more.
If Notts had won, we'd be 39 points off the top, which just shows, how these things can change quickly. So, yeah, we're by no means out of it, but I think most counties will be saying that. Like, it's just, so tight, which is great for cricket, of course, that anyone could beat anyone at the moment.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Except Surrey, the only team we still haven't lost.
Yes, that's annoying. Just wish we had a chance to play them again.
Yeah, but a lot of
start of the season.
So when Surrey travel, they seem to keep being met with really flat pitches that they're struggling to win on.
Yeah.
So long may that continue.
I think that's a definite strategy by the other counties, because that seems to be a coincidence that's more of a trend, isn't it?
Although I'm sure if we were hosting them, we would produce a cider of that.
I watched a fair bit of them up at Edgbaston. I think that was the week that we were off, and that was flat. That was really tough. So as you say, Dan, whatever trips they go on, they're going to be met with flat ones. Right, anything more to talk about on the Sussex game then? Have you heard if Tom Banton's got any disciplinaries for his show of disappointment, shall we say, to his dismissal of the first innings? I've not heard anything.
Nothing.
No, I think we're done. Just quickly, Andrew Caddick was on the stream commentating on the evening of the third day when we were chasing. He was absolutely apoplectic that Ollie Robinson wasn't brought back for a second spell. Can you think of any reason why he wasn't? Was he hobbling a bit, Dan? Did you see anything?
Workload management.
Yeah, I didn't see him hobbling, but he, as we know, he has had some fitness issues. So I'm guessing that was the reason he didn't come back. But I thought it was a no-brainer. If he could have been brought back, he surely should have. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh well, never mind. Right, on to Durham then. So everything is all over the place at the moment, a bit like our players and the Rew brothers. Thomas was playing at Grace Road this week for the Professional County Club Select 11. Not sure why it's called that, but what was it called when James Rew, the First Class Counties Select 11? That was when James Rew made his debut. So I don't know what's changed in the last few years for them to change the name, but whatever. He made 100 second time around, batted very well. So, is he coming in to take the gloves on Friday? We aren't going to know if we've got. James hasn't been named in the starting 11 for Zimbabwe at Trent Bridge on Thursday, but England have started playing football again in their warm-ups. So if somebody does an ankle or whatever, he is coming in and making his debut. So they obviously won't be able to release him until 11:05 on Thursday morning.
Yeah, Durham's a long way north, but it's not that much of a journey from Nottingham. I think he'll be on his way up there sometime. This time tomorrow he'll be in the team hotel in Durham.
Yes, potentially, because we normally travel up to Durham 2 days before, so they're probably travelling now, in fact, so they get a clear day's practice there on Thursday before the match starts on Friday. So the men will already be on the way. So I guess we've got to wait and see. I mean, Thomas Rew didn't obviously play in the second 11 T20 today, when he has been playing them previously. So times like this where we need to know who's on the coach, really, don't we? I mean, he may not. Well, they may not end up even naming him in the squad.
He's got his exams coming, hasn't he? But next week's half term. So it won't be exams next week. So if he is going to play, to me, that's the game he would play.
And he's been playing a lot of cricket anyway. So I imagine if he was being lined up to play in this game and he needed to get revision or whatever or score, then he wouldn't be doing it. He wouldn't have been playing all those set 11 games. He would have saved it for him to play this game on Friday. So, what are we doing then? We're assuming everyone's fit. I don't think anybody pulled up lame.
Well, Josh Davey went off, didn't he? And I think people were speculating about whether he had an injury that was going to prevent him bowling, or whether it was just he was being given a bit of time because he was going to open the batting. But that would be my one. You've got Lewis, who potentially is going to open the batting and not bowl again, and then you've got Josh Davey, who might have a question mark against his name for bowling.
So I don't think you can change the pair of them again. I don't think you can go out to Mead and Vaughan right now.
No.
We're assuming that everyone who played in that second 11 game today against Warwickshire isn't on the bus. That rules out. Let me find it 1 second.
Smead, Goldsworthy both played today, but Omid did not.
Mead didn't. So you're assuming Mead's in the squad. Finn Hill as well as the other contracted player, and Josh Thomas. Yeah. So you're assuming that those four aren't in the squad. So maybe they bring back Umid and Gregory and leave Davey out if he's injured.
Have we mentioned that Banton might not be playing this weekend because of the England's matches? He's in the
of course, the one-day squad. Yes.
My assumption is that Banton will not be playing this weekend because England's first match of this white ball series is next Thursday. Yeah. So if he does play this match, he'll only have 2 clear days in between to prepare for it. And obviously the same applies to all the players in that squad. So my assumption was that white ball squad would be coming together this weekend and not taking part in this round of championship games. But I haven't heard anything about that. So I'm not sure.
No, I haven't heard that either. I mean, are they? Yeah, so we need a day off Tuesday, or potentially as a travel day, and then they train on the Wednesday. Would that be enough?
They'd probably train Tuesday and Wednesday, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think usually England teams have a bit more build up than just 2 days, but I don't know. We'll see.
So if Banton's unavailable, we could potentially be playing both Rews.
Well, I mean, surely Smead or Goldsworthy would play ahead of Thomas Rew. I mean, my team I've got here is Gregory and Davey opening, Lammonby, Abel, Umid, and then whichever Rew is available, and then Vaughan, and then Overton, Pretorius, Henry Leach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically just Umid in for Banton and maybe Thomas in for James.
Yeah, I go with that. You have to assume that Umid is on the bus because he's not playing in that second team game. Yeah.
Well, they'll take 13 at least, certainly to Durham they will, if not 14. So Umid could be travelling with being like 14th man almost. I wondered if my head before we started talking about it was that I had a real question mark against Josh, and I hope I'm wrong, but I wondered if he's not fit, whether Archie Vaughan would go back up the order and then you play both Rews if available.
But then if
Gregory pulling a face there, Shep.
Well, after one game down the order.
I know.
If for that, it would depend on whether Gregory can bowl as well, won't it? Because otherwise, Aldridge has to come in Davey.
Yeah.
So if Gregory can bowl, then we can play the extra batter instead of Davey. But if Gregory cannot bowl, then it'll have to be Aldridge in for Davey, I'm guessing. And Aldridge did not play for the seconds today, so he's on the bus, presumably.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a hell of a lot of moving parts here and a lot of ifs and buts and maybes. I'd love to see this flowchart of selection. Like, is James Rew available? Yes. Right. Then he goes in here, and then if, oh, bloody hell, Davey is injured, then Right. Oh. You give yourself a brain aneurysm thinking about all this. Right. So Davy, Gregory, Lammonby,
Rew, Abel.
Rew, James, but not Rew
Yes.
Thomas. Abel at 4 if James Rew not available. Don't know. I'm
No.
picking myself already.
I won't mention TKC, who's finished in the PSL as well.
Oh God, don't mention that. Well, he's going to have to be he is actually going to have to be keeping in the blast now.
Yeah, he will,
because Rew will be with the England Lions for 2 warm-up games. 2 warm-up games for India that they're playing against England Lions. So he'll be captaining England Lions there, which kind of means he's going to be unavailable for the first 2 weeks of the blast. So TKC will have to take the gloves. Well, Thomas Rew comes in for the blast as well. Why not?
I think that's highly unlikely because if you consider that James was kept back from the blast and he made his debut on finals day, didn't he? Last year, I can't see that Thomas would come straight in. But
he would have to wait for finals day to just get him in on the big stage. Yes. That's what the Rews need. They've got to come in on the big stage.
Absolutely. That's obviously what works for the Rew family. So, let's do that. But it's hard enough trying to pick the side for Friday, let alone trying to pick the side for the T20s.
Oh, God. Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. So you're saying that potentially the reason why James isn't playing against Zimbabwe on Thursday is because they're waiting for the World Test Championship final to make his debut then? Get him in on the biggest stage or the deciding test in the Ashes over the Ashes
winter. Down under next winter. Yeah, that's more like it, isn't it?
Yeah, go for it. Why not? Well, we'll wait and see. None of us got a lot right with a team that's going to take on Sussex. So do you think we're going to get anything right? Probably, potentially, maybe not. Who knows? Somerset women have had a couple of games. Dan, you were down at Exmouth on Friday night for the ECB County Cup against Durham. Do you want to talk us through the 4th Super Over you've witnessed in your career, which makes you, your brother and your dad are record holders?
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the start. The Durham innings never really got going, really. Like it was just sort of a steady loss of wickets. I'm just bringing up the scorecard. They just steadily lost wickets, really. And there's clearly quite a bit in it for spin. Charlie Dean took 4 for 12. Chloe Skelton took a couple as well. We bowled really nicely. We stripped them to 124, just over a runner ball on a club grounds, which I thought, even if there is something in it for spin, I thought we shouldn't have too many issues getting there, given we had Heather Knight and Sophie Luff and Fran Wilson in the team. And also we then had a great start with the bat, racing to 54 for none off 5.2 overs. Bex Hodges smashing 39 at better than a runner ball. She then got out. After that, it all just went into decline. I mean, it was the spinners of Durham that did for us. I mean, Catherine Fraser, 2 for 25. Maddie Villiers, 2 for 13 from 4 overs. Katie Levick, 3 for 13 from 4 overs. It just shows in T20 cricket, even in a low chase, a few dot balls can make a team make some silly decisions. That's basically what happened. The pressure built, and they just made some poor decisions. A couple of stumpings from batters running down the wicket. They just didn't seem to be able to manipulate the ball for regular singles. Really, there was an element of panic, unfortunately, in the middle order. Our experienced core of Knight, Wilson, and Luff, got 13, 7, and 3. I just think we had it under control, actually, when I think it was Knight and Dean were together. They brought it up to 92 for 4, but then there was another little collapse. And thankfully, Alex Griffiths hit a few boundaries near the end to take us level, which meant a super over. And funnily enough, at the halftime interval, I did just think, I may as well just have a quick look at the regulations just to see what happens in the event of a tie, assuming it wouldn't be relevant. So we went to super over, and we got 8 off it, which I thought was not necessarily terrible, but sadly Durham, Bess Heath just played a couple of ramp shots to get Durham home in 3 balls off Charlie Dean as well. So all credit to them for coming back into it. after a bloody long journey, which we made even longer by forcing them to go down to Exmouth. So yeah, it's a strange but amazing game of cricket, really, and just a big disappointment for Somerset. I think that we're out because, well, one more thing that I found strange was the team selection. We didn't pick Casey Jones, Ellie Anderson, or Laura Jackson. We brought in Erin Vukovic and Jess Hazel for their debuts. While I'm, always glad to see, players get their first caps, etc. It was a strange decision to not play our strongest team in a knockout match. This is a knockout competition. We have to win every game. This is also a competition with the incentive of a finals day at Taunton. So it baffles me as to why we did not pick our strongest team. As far as I'm aware, there were no injuries or anything to those players. They've all played subsequently. So that was strange for me. So yeah, it was a good game, and just a bit of a disappointment that we've been knocked out at the first hurdle, having really looked like we should have won, and it just all fell apart in that chase.
I know another one of your pet hates, Dan, is batters not running until they're out on the last ball of the innings. So, I mean, I'm trying to work out what Alex Griffiths was doing, because they needed 3 to win and 2 to tie off the last ball, 9 down, and she stopped after 1 and checked and sort of went, "Is there 2? Yeah, there's 2. Call through for 2."
Yeah, she looked around at Vukovic, the other batter, and waited for a few seconds for some reason. Which, and me and others were literally shouting, "Run, run!" from the boundary. I was baffled. I mean, maybe she didn't realize it was the last ball, but in that case, that's pretty poor game awareness. So there needs to be a bit of a, there's something to learn from there. Someone on Twitter seemed to think that maybe she was trying to do that relay thing where you kind of wait for the other batter to arrive and then set off once that batter's.
Okay.
However, that doesn't really work for me, because Griffiths hit it down the ground and ran. She should have known that if she had done the relay thing, there would not have been time for her to get back to the other end, because by the time Vukovic had arrived at Griffiths' end, the non-striker's end, the ball would have arrived at the bowler. At that point, Griffiths would have been in a race against the ball. The bowler would have just thrown the ball to the keeper and the bells would have come off. So that, for me, if that's what Griffiths was trying to do, I think that was the wrong decision as well. So just something to learn from. I think 99.9% of the time in that situation, you just run and you keep running until you're around. You don't worry about the relay thing.
Just pressure does funny things in these sorts of situations. Right, I'm going to pause the podcast there because I'm absolutely desperate for a piss, but we'll do listeners' questions when we come back. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Blimey, Shep, that was a splash and dash.
That's better. Oh no, how valuable all your guys' time is. Right. So, what are we talking about? Right, listeners' questions then.
And there's still another Somerset women game. If
we're yes, sorry. The Blaze.
Yes.
We're so good. We're not going to name ourselves after a county, the Blaze. Does sound like a regional commercial radio station, doesn't it? The Blaze, 96.3 FM.
I found that a very strange decision not to go with Nottinghamshire. The fact that they are the one county that's just the Blaze and everyone else is their county name, but each to their own, I guess. So this one was, so we got 304, which looked a decent score, I think, on that ground as well. If you look at the history of that ground, it's a good score. But as we know, the scores in women's cricket are getting higher and higher. So this stat is courtesy of Hypercourse on Twitter. The 4 highest successful women's list day run chases in England have come this season in the One Day Cup, which is an incredible stat. No score is safe anymore. Just like a few years ago in the men's game, 300 was seen as, that'll be plenty in a 50 over match. But now it's not, and now that transition's happened in the women's game as well. So we batted well. I mean, Bex Hodges again scored a 50. She's the one who's not really. She's only played when Heather Knight's been unavailable most of the time.
Yeah, if we had no Heather Knight or Charlie Dean for this game, because they're obviously off with England, who are playing as we speak. I was impressed with the way they went about their business at the top of the order. 88 for the first wicket. There was a run out. The ball after Rodgers got a 50. It was a bit of a fixed camera stream up at Loughborough, so I couldn't quite tell whose fault it was. But Luffy continued her good form again with 72. Then Amanda J. Wellington, who came in late, finished with 48 off 25. Do you think they bat her in the right place? Because I'd like to see her just bat at 4, because she doesn't go out and slog it. She's very experienced, very knowledgeable cricketer who kind of reads the game well, which it was kind of evidence when in that run chase at Surrey, where they dug themselves in a hole, trying to smash it through mid-wicket, and they just kept finding fielders. And then Wellington gets to the crease and goes, well, we need boundaries. There's no fielders out on the offside, so I'll do whatever I need to do to manipulate my body around the ball so I can get it through the offside. So she's not stupid. She's not a close your eyes and swing kind of cricketer. I just like to see her up the order and see what she could do. Because with respect to the four that are up there, I don't see any of them playing that kind of innings where you could get 160 off 90 balls if things go your way. I think Wellington could potentially play that sort of innings. I think the four that you've got at the top there are very much would accumulate, and then they can all play the big shot, but I think they're more comfortable just sort of staying in, knocking it round, hitting the bad ball, and then going in the last 10 overs. Or I think somebody like Wellington could possibly read it better and go, do you know what? It's flat. I think I can get a big one today.
I guess they
my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, I think they probably like the luxury of having a coming in down the order, and quite often those sorts of players like Graham Maxwell, you think, oh yeah, may as well promote them up the order, but it never seems to quite work.
No.
That's kind of the thing I'd say to that. They almost thrive in that role of that sort of finisher role in a 50-over game, be the last sort of 10-15 overs in a T20, the last 5 overs. So it's the kind of thing which they might well try at some point. But I think they obviously they obviously want Luff and Wilson sort of dictating the middle overs. Katie Jones, they obviously 5 as well. Griffiths at 6. I think Jones, they like to have. I think Jones is sort of she's a very good young talent, and I think they want to give her opportunities to back for a substantial amount of time as well. And Griffiths is having a good season as well, to be fair. But yeah, there is that tantalising possibility of Wellington coming off and putting a score well out of reach, isn't there? So it's something for them to think about. And obviously now there's no 50-over cricket for a while, so they're focusing on T20s for now. But in the meantime, that's something they could.
It's a bit like Lewis Gregory with the men, isn't it? Great, he's opening, captain's opening, experienced player. Very free scoring. He's good at working the strike. He'll naturally pick it over, and then you kind of want him down at 7 as well because he's brilliant at batting with the tail. So you can only have a person in one place. There are pros and cons for wherever you.
I think at the moment, because this is very much a finding their feet season for all these teams. But I think at the moment, if it's not broke, I absolutely, the pinch hitter role I can see. But at the moment, if it isn't broke, let's not fix it. And okay, they've lost some games, but the performances from decent. They're in most games. And I think somebody said on Twitter, that's twice we've been close and not quite got home. But it's a work in progress to me. And I think you've got to just try and let everyone settle into the roles. Because as Dan says, we've got some, young players who haven't been in the side until recently and have come in and done well. We've got some other young players who are real talents who are coming through. And I think it's really encouraging. And it's really exciting to see. Yeah, and there's been real strides made by several players from last season. I think having that one training base as opposed to having multiple training bases around the region has really helped. So, and I think not having influence from Gloucestershire and Glamorgan helps as well. Helps to develop our players.
Are you saying that we've cast off the dead weight of Gloucestershire and Glamorgan? Now let's not. We like Glamorgan. Glamorgan are okay, but let's talk about Gloucestershire. I had a bit of a row with their social media admin because he was having a go at Jake Ball. We love Jake Ball. They've cast off the shackles of Gloucestershire. Now they are free.
Yeah,
that's the title of this week's podcast. I just have one thing, and I can they get the same caps as the men when they get their debut cap presented? I know it's one-day cricket, 50 over and 20 over, and the men play obviously the 4-day cricket with the whites and the traditional old caps. But I'd like to see them get not the cap that you buy in the shop. I'd like to see them get the same blue caps that you get when you make your championship debut, the old cloth ones, think sort of baggy green, are equivalent. That stays with you through your career. You're obviously not going to wear it in white ball cricket, but it's a special thing that only a player gets, not something that you can buy in the shop for 20 quid.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
Yeah. Maybe they do in behind the scenes. I'm not sure, but that's something I would like to see come to fruition if possible. Right, let's have some listeners' questions then. Oh, just quickly before we go, did you see Rob Key's interview on Sky Sports earlier today?
I didn't watch it, but I saw that it was.
Right, don't. If you haven't seen it, Steve, did you see it?
No.
Guess where he was, where he had this interview.
On the golf course.
He was on a golf course. I literally couldn't believe it. After sending out this missive, stop talking about golf, stop taking the piss out of us for playing all this golf. And they go live to the managing director of England men's cricket the day before the test matches start, and he's on the golf course. It's hilarious. Oh, I just couldn't believe it. Right, let's have a look for questions then. Let's start with Simon Hancock saying, does playing in the county championship count as an unauthorised absence from school? Are Chris and Debbie Rew going to get a nasty letter in the post finding whatever it is if Thomas goes off to Durham and plays or makes his championship debut? If they do get that letter, I'd just love it to be framed in the museum. That would be one of the greatest pieces of memorabilia in Somerset history. Simon, as far as I'm concerned, going to watch county championship counts as an authorised absence from school. So playing in it, go for your life.
Isn't Rew, Thomas is only in his first year of A-levels, isn't he, as well?
Oh, I don't know.
So he won't have exams at the moment. Because my understanding is that A-levels now are all
I thought he had exams.
Oh, I don't know. I asked.
He was born in December 2007, meaning that he's this is his first year of A-levels, I'm pretty sure, because he doesn't turn 18 till the next academic year.
If he's as good academically as his cricket, though, he might be doing them early.
Well, let's not get into this. As far as we know, he's available. So
As Simon's our education correspondent, perhaps he can help us out with that one before next week.
Well, I asked Spencer in the press box on Saturday. He said he wasn't sure. So maybe if I see Chris or Debbie around the ground, I will ask them and get it from the horse's mouth. Right. Trev says, "Is it back on?" I think it is back on. I mean, we thought it was
not
back
at
on
the moment,
last season.
but if we win this weekend, I might start looking up rather than looking down. Is my mindset at the moment.
Didn't we think it was on more or less this time last year? And then we went to Durham and we got absolutely smashed. And then we went, oh.
Yeah. Although, to be fair.
And then it kind of came back on again in September. So it's a long season.
And as we said, the fact it's very compressed at the moment and pretty much anyone can beat anyone, that makes a real difference, I think.
Yeah. Shall I mention the last year we won at Chester Street in first class cricket?
No, don't.
I'll just say
be post. Well, the good news is it's got to be post 1993.
But yeah, I'll just
92,
say that
whichever year they came up.
I was just about born when we last won at Chester Street. I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Go off some people, can't you? Really quickly.
Andy Cleve thinks that we're going to be on TV. Well, Somerset are going to be on TV in the doubleheader blast off next Friday. That's on the Sky listing, so there'll be no live stream.
Yes,
but we will be on the telly box. With
is there
Sky
a full list of blast games on TV?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
There's a bit. Well, all that's showing on the Sky Live cricket thing is us against Surrey on Friday, and then both the Warwickshire women games, men and women, on the Saturday. But they don't seem to be showing our women. They're just showing the women against the Bears v Durham women game the next day, which is a shame.
Don't know. It's probably a record for fewest number of questions that we've had. Just 2. And a point from Andy. Fair dues. There was a members Q&A after play on Saturday last week. So to the ire of my wife, after leaving the house at 8 o'clock at Black Harbour State in the morning to avoid the Devon County Show traffic on the way up to Taunton, I then decided to stay for the Q&A. I didn't get back till about 9 o'clock, so that put me in the doghouse Sunday, and I had to do my level best just to be able to keep half an eye on the live stream on Sunday. I'm trying to think, there's a lot of questions about the Somerset stand not being open. I'd love to just sit down and drill through the finances of that, because I think the ground is potentially a little bit over stewarded, so you could probably put a steward there. I'd like to know the amount of times stewards have needed to be employed, for want of a better word, at a championship game. I suspect the answer in the last few years, the answer is between none and one. Are you going to talk about the time you got absolutely shit-faced and they need to throw you out, Dan? Or
I was just going to make a quick point about when I've been to other grounds like the Oval and Trent Bridge. They're much bigger grounds and they're entirely open or near enough entirely open. And I hardly see any stewards. So I don't really understand why we worry about the number of stewards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure what I'm missing, but other grounds don't seem to steward as much as we do, despite being much bigger. Pretty open.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Our members' areas are dotted around the ground in quite a haphazard fashion. So you've got the Hildreth stand, and then the Botham stand, and then the Colin Atkinson. And there's about there's about 6 different ways you can get into each of those. So potentially you need a steward on each of those. And then you've got Trescothick upper. So you need one there. You need one for the stop people going in the boxes. You need 2 to stop people walking in front of Gimlet Hill, because people don't like that while the overs are going on. So there's kind of like 8 or 9 who are just kind of not really doing anything. They're just stopping non-members sitting where they shouldn't. I mean, so Kate, I guess you need that. I mean, does a lot of rubbish get left in a stand after championship game? I don't think it will do. No, probably nowhere near the scale on a blast game.
No, absolutely right.
I mean, I was literally saying like probably 1% or less of what you get on a blast game, I suspect.
I would say 1 steward is enough for the Somerset stand, or maybe 2. Yeah. And also, when the wicket is over that way, I think it's a shame, because in the game just got. It's a shame.
That was brought up. Yeah,
stands not open, and I think it maybe kills a bit of the atmosphere for the players as well. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Closer, don't they? So.
Yeah, and there is something about we need to have the toilets open. If you have that block open, every time I've had an odd 5 minutes this week, I've tried Googling UK sports stadium regulations and number of toilets per spectators and this, that, and the other. I can't see anything. I mean, if
those toilets are open, the Somerset stand toilets are open during championship games.
What, the big ones under block 3?
Yeah, I've been in them this season during a championship game. Yeah.
Have you?
Yep, and I'm sure I did in previous seasons as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to.
Maybe they're not always open. I don't know, but whenever
the point stand is if one of the reasons you're not doing it is because you don't want to pay extra for the toilets to be cleaned after a day's play. And now quite big toilets, they are, they imagine they need to cope with all the people in there on a blast game. They will take a while to clean them. Is there a rule to say they have to be open and say, well, if you want to sit here, you're going to have to walk around the ones under the Botham stand? I don't know. I'd like to think that rule didn't exist, because it seems quite petty if it does.
Yeah, but the fundamental is we all agree it's killing the atmosphere a bit.
Yeah,
because
without a doubt.
Yeah, I think when the wicket is over that side, I really think the Somerset stand should be open. If it's over towards the pavilion, I'm not so bothered. But I think when the wicket's towards the Somerset stand, it should be open.
Yeah, definitely. I asked about whether they felt they were getting value for money from or just value in general from the Abu Dhabi pre-season trip, in particular the T20. Sarge said that they get paid quite substantially to participate in that tournament, and that goes a long way to covering the cost for the rest of the trip. But he said that they're always reviewing everything. But for my money, we've been on that trip for a good 4 or 5 years now, and pretty much every April we've not performed. So it might be some time to look at something different, wherever that is. I don't know. He did say that if they use practice wickets under the marquee, like we did back in the day a few years ago,
Mhm.
means they can't use them until July, I think. I know, and there is a lot of pressure on the square now, obviously with two teams needing to practice on it rather than just one. Raised about the members' room, the county room, and how it's, we have access to it. This is our bar. We don't really feel like we have access to it. And I sort of suddenly popped into my head that if you go in there, you could be in any soulless Novotel conference room off the M5 for a conference about drill bits. There's nothing in that room to suggest that you are in the much historied and storied members area of Somerset County Cricket Club. It's just plain beige walls all around. So I think, getting something up on the walls, making it feel like it is our clubhouse in effect for members would be a great idea. Talked about the Wall of Fame as well. All the pictures that have been took down there. Something is going to happen with that, and I can't remember if there was anything else. Andy Cleve was brave enough to ask Sarge about the Jake Ball loan situation, and Sarge is saying that he's owned that, but didn't really kind of say why he couldn't just play a second 11 game rather than go up to Durham. Apparently, he needs to go up to Durham because he needs super high quality Division 1 cricket rather than a second 11 game. Anyway, that's that. Right. I think we're more or less done. Nothing else from the listeners. Nothing else from me. Anything else from you guys? You're not braving it up to Durham, are you, Dan?
I am, yep.
You are? Oh, good lad. What, all 4 days?
No, I'll be travelling up Friday evening, so then I'll be there for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm just hoping it gets that far, because last year all I saw was 2 sessions on Saturday.
I definitely hope. I think you're safe with it getting to Saturday. I really think you're nailed on to get some play Saturday.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, if the wicket's as flat as the one they had last week, then there's a good chance it'll go deep, especially as the weather's a bit mixed, I think, this weekend.
Yeah, it's not going to be great, is it? But Saturday, Sunday, bank holiday, Monday. Good to see cricket on a bank holiday Monday again. Steve, anything else from your good self?
No, thank you, Sheps.
Oh, good. It is the AGM in a couple of weeks. Despite casting my votes online, I got my election pack in the post today with all the gumph about re-electing all your member directors and your presidents and your chairs. I've, of course, re-elected our colleague here on Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. So Peter Wanless has received my vote. Any members, directors are up for, only Jeff Vian standing for re-election. And there's 4 new ones. Michelle Edwards, Richard Hatcher, Jane Hamlin and Chad Murrin are your 4 newbies, should you wish to put your tick in their proverbial box. And I've had a look at the accounts, and I think we're doing marginally better than we did last year, from how my my layman's eyes can read those. We did make enough of a surplus to keep the Somerset stand open in championship games. Right, good stuff. Anything else from yourself, Steve?
No, mate, I'm done.
No. Good stuff. Right then, best of luck to Lewis Gregory and whichever team he takes up to or whichever team takes the field at Chester Street on Friday. It is, of course, women's T20 finals day at the Cooper Associates County Ground on Monday. So if you do fancy some cricket and you're not able to get up to Durham, do pop along there. Fortunately, Somerset women won't be there, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of good quality cricket on offer for you at Taunton on Monday. Fellas, thanks for coming along, and we'll catch up next week.